Minute 32 na Kongreso ng Manhoban Guam is hereby called to order. And I call on Representative Byron Bloss for the prayer. Please stand.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us all here safely today, and we ask that you open our hearts and our minds to do your will. And with this we pray. Make it each thought, each word, each seed of mind shall be an act of love divine, and everything that I shall do shall be my God for love of you. The gift of life you gave to me, O let my heart your dwelling be. What is there that I will not do, my God and me, for love of you? Amen. Mary, seat of wisdom. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
I now call on Representative Dichoso for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by
I now call on Representative Maige for the Guam hymn. I now call on Representative Lorenzo for the recitation of the Unifresi.
Inafrasi, Gininimas Takula, Gihinasaku.
Thank you. You may be seated. Mr. Recording Secretary, roll call, please.
Representative Cabrini Uggan, Representative Byron Blas, Representative Travis Blas, Representative Aubriana Cruz, Representative Kyle DeHelig, Representative Noel DeGracia, Representative Joshua DeChoto, Representative Lauren Dinsman, Representative Maria De Lohan, Representative Abel Duenas, Representative David Felicent, Representative Prairie Guerrero, Representative Al Lebang, Secretary Stephanie Lorenzo, Representative Joe Maige, Representative Valina Matanani, Representative Janae Pareda, Representative Zachary Pierre Paul, Representative DeMarco Kineni, Representative Tristan Quintanilla, Vice Speaker Richards, Representative Chelsea Roque, Representative Casey Rosario, Representative Elijah Santos, Representative Javen Santos, Representative Vicente Blas Tyran, Representative Kyla Ann Trinidad, Speaker Christian Valencia, Representative Isabel Valencia, Mr. Speaker, there's a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Next on our item 7, call for the approval of the Legislative Journal. Representative Santos, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I make a motion to waive items 7 through 11 of the session agenda today.
There's been a motion to waive items 7 through 11 of our legislative session agenda. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Mr. Leader, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to make a motion to have all resolutions have their first reading file, or first reading.
There's been a motion that all resolutions on our agenda deemed to have their first reading. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. We're now in motions. Representative Lorenzo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to move Resolution 14-32 to the second reading file.
There's been a motion to place resolution number 14-32 onto the second reading file to discuss.
Yes.
Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. You may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My fellow representatives, I would like to please look at Resolution 14-32. This is in regards to recognizing May 12th through May 18th as Guam Police Week. As a daughter of a police officer, I can attest to the amount of hard work that all law enforcement do in the community. Sorry. And I just wanted to take this time to write a resolution along with my co-sponsors to really recognize them, and I really hope that we could get the whole body support in this. All law enforcement, whether they're coming from GPD, Port Authority, airport police, they all put their lives on the line every day to ensure that we are safe in our community. Yes. Okay, and I really hope that we can get a unanimous support on this. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Lorenzo. On the main motion, are there any member who wish to be recognized? Who wishes to speak? Seeing as there are none, Representative Lorenzo, you're invited to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I hope that there was no, because of that, I'm assuming there's going to be full support in this, so thank you very much to my colleagues, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there a motion?
Yes. I would like to make a motion to place Resolution 14-32 into the third reading file.
There's been a motion to place resolution number 14-32 onto the third reading file. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes.
Thank you.
Motions. Any other member who wishes to be recognized? Representative Dahilic, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to move Resolution 19-32 into the second reading file.
There's been a motion to place resolution number 19-32 onto the second reading file for discussion. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. You may continue.
Hafadays and Minanasizuas si Kongresyon Manhobangwahan, ExxonMobil knew about climate change and its harmful effects to the environment and life in the 70s and refused to do anything. The government knew about climate change around the same time and did nothing meaningful enough to prevent this problem 40 years ago. One Friday, Greta Thunberg, our age, skipped school, sat on the steps of the Swedish parliament, demanded climate action, and woke the youth around the world. When she was 8, around the same age as our younger siblings, she learned about climate change and was shocked at the lack of effective action by government. This played an impact on her mental health as one of the reasons why she fell into depression a few years later. The climate crisis affects us today. It started yesterday and will continue tomorrow. Regrettably, nothing will change until we stand up and force government and industries to protect our generation and our kids' future. Last night, I got into an argument with my affiliate because I didn't have a plan for my future. I need to make a choice within a couple weeks that would decide where I'll be the next 4 years. And just like my deadline for college, we can't wait any longer for change to happen if we don't act now. Today's resolution, 18-32, is not just an honoring for the encouragement, the ideas, and the hope for a safer future, but our hope will serve as a light for meaningful action, so that the world knows that the youth is woke and the youth is ready for action. And I humbly ask for your support to send this message of support from this tiny island of Guam to Greta Thunberg in Sweden. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dahilic. On the main motion, any member who wishes to speak? Representative Santos, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank Representative Dahilic for introducing this resolution. I see this resolution as a really great opportunity for the Youth Congress to take a stand on the issues that we think that are important. Climate change is something that is even more paramount because we're in a Pacific island. We see so many of our neighboring islands in danger of the storms that are getting increasingly worse due to climate change. And we see islands, low-lying atolls that just are inches away from sinking because of the polar ice caps melting and from sea level rising. So youth who are able to take a stance and cause a movement to fix or to try to get the voice out for these issues to be solved by our government, by the people who are put in place to solve the issues of our communities and the issues of our world. these are the kind of people that the Youth Congress as a body should be able to recognize. A lot of the climate change discussion has changed recently, and I think that especially on Guam, we need to recognize that climate change should not be seen as an issue of privilege. Climate change is not something that only the rich and entitled and more comfortably well-off people can advocate for, because climate change is an issue that impacts the rich and the poor. I wouldn't say equally, but it impacts both of them. So yeah, I think that the school strike for climate change movement is really empowering, because it started from, it's a movement that comes from the youth. And I think that as a body, we should be recognizing more proactive youth in our lives. And I'm really excited, and I want to work really hard to try to get this resolution to her, so that way she knows that there's people out there looking at what she's doing from all across the world, and that we know that she's on the right side of history and on the peak of change for our whole community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Santos. On the main motion, any member who wishes to speak. Representative LeBang, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to commend the author for doing this resolution, and I think we should acknowledge that climate change is an existential threat to humanity. Climate change is not only our problem, it's the world's problem. It's sad that whatever we do here, there's consequences. And we are the ones that's gonna face that in the future, we the youth. I'm just sad that some people does not acknowledge the fact that climate change exists. So I think, most of you probably know that I really support the Green New Deal. And I think with this resolution, we could further adopt those resolutions that the US Congress supported. That's all, thank you.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. On the main motion, any other member who wishes to speak? Representative Vice Speaker Richards, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to also express my support for this resolution, and I'd like to thank Representative DeHillig for writing it and recognizing Greta Thunberg as a true leader among the youth for climate change. I'm reading this quote that he included in the resolution that says, "To open their eyes, see the crisis, treat it like a crisis, and do something about it." And I think that the community has opened their eyes in the present. They see the crisis, they acknowledge the crisis, but we fail to treat it like a crisis. And to have someone so young have that mindset is really speaks volumes about the capability and potential of our youth. And to express my support even further, I would like to amend the resolution to reflect myself as a co-sponsor.
On that amendment, any other member who wishes to speak? On the amendment, to add Vice Speaker Richards' name. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Okay. Thank you, Vice Speaker Richards. On the main motion now, any member who wishes to speak? Representative Uggan, you're recognized. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I, too, would like to take a brief moment to thank Representative DeHelig for recognizing Greta Thunberg, as climate change is a crisis that has such severe effects that will only grow dire as the future progresses as if no action is taken. So, yes, I would like to express my support and thank him again. Yes.
Thank you, Representative Elgin. On the main motion, any member who wishes to speak? If there are none, Representative DeHelig, you're invited to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Donkalun Asidus Mahasini attention Mizu. A big thanks for all of your attention. And with that, I would like to move Resolution 19-32 to the third reading file.
There's been a motion to place resolution number 19-32 onto the third reading file. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. We're still in motions. Representative LeBang, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to place Resolution 15-32 to second reading file.
Was that 15?
15.
15. There's been a motion to place resolution number 15-32 onto the second reading file for discussion. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. You may continue.
So this resolution, since April is Youth Month, we recognize it as Youth Month. I wrote this resolution to non-profit organization that promotes youth development and service in Island. So, as you can see, I stated which organization are those and what they did. Basically, this nonprofit organization, they really help the youth. So I humbly ask everyone's support. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. On the main motion, any member who wishes to speak? Representative Tyron, you're recognized.
I'd just like to express my support for resolution number 15-32 because I believe that if we encourage service from youth, then it will follow in or towards the rest of our lives so that we can make contributions to our community and better our community for the future generations to come. And by encouraging participation and involvement in one's community at a young age, it will allow us to produce stewards of the future and to better educate the future generations on being citizens who participate within their community and who care about their community. And so I just like to express my support, and I share the same sentiments with Representative LeBang. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tyron. On the main motion, any other member who wishes to speak? Representative Maige, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to express my support for Resolution 15-32. Because the youth is the future of our island, and because we're the future of the island, it's really important for us to start being involved in the community. And I just think that if we pass this resolution, it would thank those these organizations for giving the youth the opportunity to be involved in Guam's community and helping them become the leaders of our island's future. So I kindly ask my fellow representatives to support Resolution 15-32. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Maige. On the main motion, any other member who wishes to speak? If there are none, Representative LeBang, you're invited to close.
Mr. Speaker, I'm waiving closing, so I'll just move Resolution 15-32 to third reading file.
There's been a motion to place resolution number 15-32 onto the third reading file. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Representative Lang, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I also would like to move Resolution 16-32 to second reading file.
There's been a motion to place resolution number 16-32 onto the second reading file for discussion. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. You may continue.
So, Resolution 16-32 sends same sentiments as the previous resolution, but this one is addressed to sports organization that promotes sports to the youth. And I again ask my colleagues to support it.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. On the main motion, any other member who wishes to speak? If there are none, Representative LeBang, you're invited to close.
Mr. Speaker, I would just like to move it to third reading file.
There's been a motion to move or to place resolution number 16-32 onto the third reading file. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Representative LeBang, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I also would like to move Resolution 18-32.
There's been a motion to place resolution number 18-32 into the second reading file for discussion. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. You may continue.
Mr. Speaker, I'm gonna make this short again. So, Resolution 18-32 shares the same sentiments as the previous two resolutions that we moved, but this one is intended for organization that promotes the arts to the youth of Guam, especially all the organizations listed here. For all we know, most of our members have played in a band or an artist. So the purpose I introduced this resolution is to commend those people that promotes it in our island for the youth. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. On the main motion, any member who wishes to speak? Representative Tyron, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to express my full support for this bill, as I believe that arts, in whatever form, visual arts or music, allow for one to express themselves in a different way. And so, as the youth of our island engage in these activities with the arts, I think it's important that we recognize that they are making efforts to express their creativity and their imagination to the world in such a way that words can express sometimes. And so I would just like to say one more time that I'm very much in support of this resolution, and thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tyron. On the main motion, any other member who wishes to speak? Oh yes, Vice Speaker Richards is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. An amendment has been passed out that I'm introducing to include the Guam dance community on line 11, page 1, and some to fix some grammar on the further lines below. So the amendment is to add Guam dance community, cross out has and replace it with have, cross out the and add s to the end of tool to make it tools, cross out introducing, replacing it with introduce, and cross out mentoring, replacing it with mentor.
On the Richards amendment, any member who wishes to speak? Are there any objections to the Richards amendment? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. You may continue, Vice Speaker.
Just to express my support as a member of the University of Guam Latitones and a former member of La Voce from Simon Sanchez High School, I really appreciate the fact that Representative LeBang took the time to honor these organizations that promote the arts. There's been a renaissance on the island where the arts have been just becoming more prominent in our community, and it's really nice to see. And just having this as another expression of support really solidifies that. So thank you, Representative LeBang.
Thank you, Vice Speaker Richards. Representative Sanchez, you're recognized.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank Representative LeBang for considering the arts and their impact on the youth of Guam. I think that the art programs on Guam, like the previous speaker mentioned, there's been a renaissance, an increase in presence of the art community in Guam today. You see all around Hagutnya, there's murals being painted by artists. You see the Guam art exhibit is recently opened up, and getting to see the art that many of the artists have made, many of them which are youth, are using as a form of expression and to use a voice. The Guam Youth Congress is only one avenue that you can use to get the voice of the youth out there. Another great opportunity is to use art to find your voice and to share your message with the world. I would also like to use this opportunity to point out that many times the arts and the music department are severely underfunded, and I've seen it through my time in school, and I know that many of my classmates who are art majors at the university, they have a struggle with the lack of resources and the lack of supplies and opportunities on Guam and opportunities within the school because of that lack of funding. So this resolution, being able to recognize all these organizations for continuing to do the great work that they do despite the difficulties that many of the art community face today, is really powerful, especially when you recognize the fact that their presence in the community is prominent and impactful for the better. I appreciate the fact that this resolution specifically points out Mr. Maximo Ronquillo, because he is dedicated to the youth of Guam, and he's worked for years to mold the artists, the future artists and the future musicians on Guam. Music is a really great opportunity, and I'm honored to say that I've been conducted and I've been a student of Mr. Ronquillo, so I just wanted to say my piece and give my shout out to him, because he's a really great conductor, and he really sees the power that youth has, especially because he's a former Youth Congress member himself. So us being able to recognize him full circle is a really great opportunity, and I hope that this resolution gets to him. So that's all I want to say. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you, Representative LeBang, for introducing this resolution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Santos. On the main motion, any other member who wishes to speak? On resolution number 18-32, Representative Dahilig, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the increasing emphasis on the STEAM fields, such as science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics disciplines, being inclusive, the art program is instrumental for the progression and the development. I'd like to extend gratitude for Ukidu High School's director, Mr. Ronquillo, and his works with the Guam Territorial Band, as he has opened many eyes in the wake of the Guam Renaissance here on Guam. And many of my friends have actually shared testimony of being very happy and influential by Mr. Ronquillo, and with that, I would also like the record to reflect as a co-sponsor for this resolution.
So is that an amendment? Okay. There's an amendment to add Representative DeHelig's name onto the resolution as a co-sponsor. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes, or amendment passes. On the main motion, any other member who wishes to speak? Representative Bloss, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As it was just passed out, I'm proposing an amendment to this existing resolution. I'm resolving line 3, page 2, to add on to the clause which is going to recognize art groups which promote the great subject of music. And right after John F. Kennedy High School Vivace group, I'm adding the Father Duenas Boys Choir and Unplugged, Father Duenas' a cappella group, because I feel that for our school's particular groups for music, we have promoted our vocal talent within our school, not only in our traditional school masses and Sunday masses at our chapel, but we have actually, throughout this whole school year and past school years, have gone around the island singing for masses, funerals, and other such functions. So I'd just like to ask that everyone here put this along with this wonderful resolution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
On the Bloss amendment, any member who wishes to speak? Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, amendment passes. We're back to you, Representative Bloss, or is that all?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's
Thank
all.
you, Representative Bloss. On the main motion, any other member who wishes to speak? Seeing as there are none, Representative LeBang, you're invited to close.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my colleagues for adding either their name as co-sponsor or adding organization that promotes the youth.
Excuse me, Representative LeBang, point of order, Mr. Speaker.
State your point of order.
I believe Representative Vicente Tyrone has an amendment waiting to be passed out by the Sergeant of Arms for Resolution 18.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I asked for any member who should speak, and I didn't see any hands up, so. And Representative LeBang's already.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Representative LeBang, I'm going to leave it up to you. Would you like to yield to Representative Tyrone?
I will yield.
Okay. Representative Tyrone, you're recognized.
I just like to propose, or I just like to make an amendment on line 2, page 8, page 2, line 18. After La Voce to the Okadu High School Magnifico, to include the St. John School Trium Music Honor Society and the Harvest Christian Academy Trium Honor Society. I believe that these organizations encourage students to build on their musical knowledge and to further their passions through musical activities such as orchestra, glee club, and other bands. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tyrone. On the Tyrone amendment, any member who wishes to speak? Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, amendment passes. On the main motion, any member who wishes to speak, say your piece now. Representative LeBang, you're invited to close.
If there's none, I'm going to continue my closing remarks earlier. I just want to thank all the representatives that add their name as co-sponsor or add their organizations as part of this resolution. As youth chair, I think that we should recognize the youth since it's Youth Month, but we also should acknowledge the youth not only during the month of April, but throughout our term because we represent them. So that's all, and I would like to move Resolution 18-32 to third reading file.
There's been a motion to place resolution number 18-32 onto the third reading file. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Back in motions. Any member who wishes to be recognized? Vice Speaker Richards, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to make a motion to move Resolution 17-32 to the second reading file.
There's been a motion to place resolution number 17-32 onto the second reading file for discussion. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. You may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I drafted this resolution after careful thought and deliberation on how to solve the problem of our community service component in the Guam Youth Congress. Last term, we made a select committee on service, which seemed to die out as quickly as we got it started. And so I knew, and then again, it was brought up this term, but the motion failed to make it a standing committee. So there's no shortage of a desire to serve the community. But when it comes to following through, maybe we're a bit lax. So I was actually inspired by the resolution introduced last term by then Speaker Santos, which required representatives to author legislation. So in this resolution, we're requiring representatives to co-chair an event, meaning to lead an event in the community for community service every second and third regular session. And I worded it that way, not saying every year, because we are elected in November, and we would then only have 2 months to fulfill the requirement. And that's just not feasible. So that's why I worded it as second and third regular sessions of each term. And in the whereas clauses, one of the most important reasons why I think it should be a requirement is that the youth of the island, at least those attending public schools, are required to do community service through service learning. And I think as leaders of the youth, if we are asking them to do that, then we should lead by example and do it also. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Vice Speaker Richards. On the main motion, any other member who wishes to speak? Representative Labang, you're recognized.
I would like to ask if the Vice Speaker would yield for some questions.
Vice Speaker Richards, do you yield? You may continue.
So, Mr. Speaker, I just want to ask if I'm referring to page 2, line 5, when they forfeit the monthly stipend, because the way we do our stipend is that we do it every 4 months. So by forfeiting the monthly stipend, would that be all 4 months or just 1 month, or how many months it will be?
They would forfeit their stipend until they complete the requirement. Does that answer your question?
I'm sorry,
I'm
I
sorry,
didn't
Mr.
catch
Speaker.
it, sorry.
Sure.
He's asking if they won't get their stipend for the month, or is it they won't get it the full 4 months that we usually get it?
So the way the system works, we get $25 for every session that we meet. So they won't receive the $25 for each month until they complete the requirement. So say that they miss 1 month. Their year is up, and they still haven't completed the requirement by that session. So they forfeit that month's stipend, but then they chair the event the next month. So for that 4 month period, they'll receive 3 months worth and miss out on the first month. Does that answer the question?
Yes. One more question, because we're putting a limit for each time we have it, which is 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to know how probably if there's a limit of 6 and we know that will be in the following month or so on, it would constitute that we're gonna forfeit our stipend for that month, even though there's a maximum capacity of representatives co-chairing a single event.
Can you restate the question, please?
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna restate it, Mr. Speaker. So what would happen if in an event there's already a maximum of 6 representatives? So is the event gonna be like monthly basis or is it gonna be quarterly basis?
So there's no time restriction on when the events are going to happen. I placed it as 6 because originally we had 30 representatives. So if there are 6 different representatives for each event, that's 5 events in the year, which I think is doable with 12 months. So every representative has ample time and opportunity to co-chair an event.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. And thank you, Representative LeBang. Representative Kennedy, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I make a motion for a 5-minute recess.
There's been a motion to recess. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, we're in recess for 5 minutes. We're back in session. Back to you, Representative Kennedy. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to make a motion to amend Resolution 17-32 with the sheet that was passed out to change the words co-chair and co-chairing to participating. I think that this will, help with more fluidity of the words, because 6 people co-chairing an event sounds a little bit like chaos to me. The one thing I did not include is probably should be more than just 6 representatives. If you want to participate in an event, you should have maybe 1 or 2 people co-chairing an event, with the rest trying to assist the chairs with the event. Other than that, I just wanted Resolution 17-32 to kind of jive with Resolution 13-32, so that we have a solid sense of we want to do community service. And I heard the concerns of the Vice Speaker and the Legislative Secretary earlier, saying that if we take out the language of co-chairing and put in participating, people might take advantage of it. I don't believe in that. I think that if we leave it open to the representatives, that we will get a lot more participation that way.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. On the Kennedy amendment, any member who wishes to speak? Vice Speaker Richards, you're recognized.
I don't see the point of changing the language. If we change it to participating, anyone can participate in any community service event. If I show up to a 5K, I would be participating in a community event. The goal of the resolution was to have representatives of the Youth Congress lead community events, community service events. What I mean by co-chairing is to plan the event, because oftentimes 1, 2, 3 people is not enough to take care of getting sponsors, getting supplies. These are difficult things to do, especially for people like us who may have limited resources, who are still in high school, don't have rides. And so I think 6 people is not a ridiculous amount to plan an event. So I cannot support this amendment.
Thank you, Vice Speaker Richards. Representative Lorenzo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I just wanted to say that I am in opposition of this amendment. Like Vice Speaker Richards had said, 6 people with the resources, they could probably carpool, and with that, like he's also said with participating, I believe that our representatives should have the opportunity to take on leadership positions and to co-chair an event that has Youth Congress, that has everyone would, under the assumption that all the representatives would attend that event, but there will only be the 6 co-chairs. So I am in opposition of this amendment from Representative Kennedy. I believe that the resolution as is okay. I believe that it is sufficient enough for this body. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lorenzo. Representative Santos, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that this amendment doesn't really understand the intention of the resolution in itself. I think that from my understanding of the sponsor's intent, it seems as though he recognized that the Youth Congress is an educational ground. We learn about policy, we learn about the political process, and we're supposed to leave Youth Congress with a certain amount of skill. And I see the merit that the sponsor put into having the Youth Congress members learn to plan community service events. That's an important aspect of being involved in the community, and I think it's an important aspect that public leaders need to be able to do, because planning events that will make a difference in the community directly is a part of the whole public service process. And learning how to do that is a great skill that I think that If this resolution were to pass, then I think that would benefit a lot of the representatives. So I think that the idea of participation takes away the educational component of being able to organize and being able to practice communication skills and all the other important things that come with planning events. And I share the sentiment of the rest of many of the other previous speakers who see that just as a student body association is composed of several different members all working together to plan events together, I see this service requirement, having several different members plan different events, allows the skills to not only go to a select few, but to go towards the whole Youth Congress as a whole, to be able to either learn those skills or to be able to practice those skills. So I think that I'm not able to support this amendment at this time, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Santos. Representative Tyron, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like to express, or I would just like to state that I am too in opposition of this amendment, as the speaker prior to me said that this is an opportunity for each of us or to take on leadership positions and in these activities that we do for the community, but I don't see any reason to change the diction of the bill or the resolution at the moment. And so with that being said, I am in opposition of the proposal or of the amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Tyron. On the Kennedy amendment, Representative LeBang, you're recognized.
As a majority leader, I feel as I extend the same sentiments as the previous speakers. I think the amendment misses the point of this resolution, which is basically for representatives to get out of their comfort zone and to be a leader of this body for like this event. So beyond that, I think that this resolution is also intended to bring closeness to our body and to have the freshman representatives to feel included with us that's been here. So with this amendment, I am in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. On the Kennedy amendment, any other member who wishes to speak? If none, Representative Kennedy, you're invited to close. On the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I guess hearing the opinion of senior leadership today, I kind of have a sense of there's no transparency here now. There's a little bit of hypocrisy because one of the things that I've noticed in the Guam Youth Congress is that we are not as transparent as we can be, especially when it comes to session, especially when it comes to events. Now, participate was my way of saying, here, I know most of you guys have other things to do. I know most of you guys have other events. So you do not have to be there for the complete planning stage. You can help with the leaders assisting it. That was my intention of it, and if it was taken any other way, I apologize. With the Vice Speaker saying that the service, sorry, let me pull up the resolution real quick. When I introduced this amendment, I meant to change co-chairing to participating to allow people to have the opportunity to join these events without having to be heavily involved in the planning process. However, if majority of the leadership feels that 6 representatives co-chairing an event is perfectly fine with the body and perfectly fine for this resolution, I am perfectly fine if this amendment fails. But one thing I did want to point out is that This resolution only carries as much weight as those who are going to enforce it. So if, if we're going to at least reject the amendment that I proposed, I ask that everybody from the senior leadership at least actually enforce this rule. Thank you very much.
I have a point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Please state your point of order.
The previous speaker mentioned hypocrisy in his statement. I think it violated Rule 25.03, subsection C.
Can you cite it again? I'm sorry.
Rule 25, subsection C. Rule 25.03, subsection C.
Excuse me, Mr. Speaker, I would like to motion for a 5-minute recess.
We're in recess. We're back in session, and we're back to you, Representative LeBang. Please state your point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I cited the wrong rule, but I'm citing Section 25.03G. It states not publicly attack any member of the Guam Youth Congress. Such action shall constitute grounds for suspension or expulsion for conduct unbecoming a Youth Congress representative. So I want to authorize your point of privilege. I just don't like how he called leadership as hypocrites in his statements, because I believe that the leadership has their own mind to decide on the matters that we are conducting. So that's basically all.
Representative Santos.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Section G states that no member of the Youth Congress shall not publicly attack any other member, and I think that there was no mention of any other member of the Guam Youth Congress in Representative Kineni's statements, and as a member of the leadership, I think that if we're not able to take criticism, then we aren't able to function as being leaders in our body. So I just would like to make that point for the consideration for the body. Thank you.
Representative Lorenzo, you had something?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I just wanted to speak on what has been occurring recently. Representative Kineni has, before I start that, I just want to remind the body that that although we have a leadership, we are still members of this body. We are still a part of the Guam Youth Congress. The leadership does not hold ourselves to a higher standard, and I can promise you that. Representative Kineni has stated not once, not twice, more than 3 times that the senior leadership or the leadership we could have been transparent. Yes, I will admit that maybe in some instances we could have poured more effort into it, but I just wanted to say that, excuse me, that I know that as a representative from Barrigada, when I had a certificate, I sent it out via email. I put it on like the 3 group chats that I am in Youth Congress, the Legislature, and then I think was the Democratic Caucus. I could be wrong about that part. But I do know that we all try to be as transparent as possible. Mr. Speaker, you send out memorandums via email. You send it out to not only to but to the senators also in that. So we as Youth Congress representatives, we try to be as transparent as possible. We have a group chat where we're able to disseminate information. So I would just like to refute that claim that the leadership could have been transparent. We could improve, but as far from November to now, I feel like we have followed the rules and regulations of standing rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lorenzo. And at this time, okay, Representative Kineni, I'm going to give you a chance to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, I would like to make this very clear. I did not mean that as a personal attack on anyone in the personal leadership. However, when it comes to criticism, I am very harsh, and I apologize for that. If you took it to heart, I apologize for that. When I came up here and I said hypocrite, maybe it was too strong of a word. Maybe it's not the right word I should have used during my speech. However, I meant no ill will to anyone here. I know how the leadership works to keep the Guam Youth Congress running. However, I just feel sometimes that there is more that we can be doing. There's more transparency. However, in reference to Majority Leader LeBang's claim against me that I was personally attacking anybody or publicly attacking anybody, I was not. And if you felt I have done so, I am sorry. And that's all I can say on the matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Vice Speaker Richards.
I'm glad that Representative Kineni got a chance to speak his piece, but I think we can reserve If we have any other issues on this matter, we can reserve it for later. Thank you.
There's a motion to table this at the end after we've exhausted all of the items on the second reading file. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. We're still on resolution number 17-32 on the Kineni Amendment. Any other member who wishes to speak? If there are none, Representative Kineni, you're invited to close on the amendment.
Mr. Speaker, I already closed. That's what kind of got me
That's
into all the trouble.
That's right. Sorry about that. So now we're gonna, on the amendment, are there any objections? There have been stated objections. Let's put it to a vote. All those in favor of Representative Kineni's amendment, you all have a copy, right? Please raise your hand. Amendment fails. Moving on, back to main, or Representative Kineni, we're back to you. If you still had anything else? Okay.
No, Mr. Speaker, that ends my statement.
Thank you, Representative Kineni. Vice Speaker Richards, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to introduce an amendment to the resolution. It's been passed out. Representative Kineni brought to my attention earlier that last session we passed the caucus rule, and that would have been Rule 28. So now we need to change this resolution to have it state as Rule 29. So we would be amending the title, line 9, line 11 of page 1, and then line 1 of page 2. To change Rule 28 to 29 and Section 28 to 29.
On the Richards amendment, any other member who wishes to speak? Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. We're back to you, Vice Speaker Richards. Okay. On the main motion, back on resolution number 17-32, any member who wishes to speak? If there are none, Vice Speaker Richards, you're invited to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm glad that the body understands the intent of the resolution, which is to get the representatives of the Youth Congress more involved in community service planning and getting more involved in the community. And to not delay our session any further, I will end my closing statements now.
Is there a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Resolution 17-32 be placed on the third reading file.
There's been a motion to place resolution number 17-32 into the third reading file. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Representative Kineni, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I make a motion to place Resolution 13-32 into the second reading file.
There's been a motion to place resolution number 13-32 into the second reading file for discussion. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. You may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The reason I authored Resolution 13-32, and it's co-sponsored by most of the Committee on Rules, is that most of us felt the need to have a coordinated effort in bringing with the same sentiments as Vice Speaker Richards. We wanted an effort to coordinate our community service and outreach. The committee is supposed to be a standing committee with no bills allowed to be referred to it. A report of the committee's engagement is supposed to be announced every session, and all things regarding the committee is either for community outreach or even when it comes to our social media accounts, it's to provide a coordinated effort in order to reach our constituents and the people of Guam more accessibly. Other than that, I have nothing else to say on the resolution. I would like to hear you guys' comments and ideas on this resolution now. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kineni. On the main motion, Representative Lorenzo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And at this time, I would like to cite section 10.05, page 30 of our standing rules, letter B, to delete or change the order of sponsorship of a bill or resolution, provided, however, that the members at their request may be added as sponsors at their request or by majority plus one of affirmative votes. At this time, I would like to delete my name from Resolution 13-32 for the reason being that Resolution 13 was introduced on March 12th. Resolution 17 was introduced on a few days after that, on March 29. Yes, they are both with the intent of community service, and I'd like to applaud both of the main sponsors, Vice Speaker Richards and Representative Kaneni, for taking the initiative to really put into on paper that Youth Congress should have community service. One moment. I would like to remove my name from Resolution 13, seeing as no bills would be going to that committee anyways. There's no need for a standing committee, because if 17 was passed, it would already be required in our standing rules. I would also want to state that what Vice Speaker Richard had said, in the 31st Guam Youth Congress, we had a select committee on community outreach, and that was the actual committee name, community outreach. And like Vice Speaker Richard had said, it died out as soon as it started. Now, that is that. I also want to state that it makes it in 17. It makes it so that our members have the opportunity to have leadership skills, to have the opportunity to do media outreach, to have access to the Youth Congress Instagram to promote the event that they're planning. With the standing committee, it would only be limited to the members, members in our standing committee. Like, you can only have like 8 or 9. I could be wrong, depending on like the votes. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, that is it. I would like to remove my name from Resolution 13-32. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, on that motion to remove Representative Lorenzo's name from resolution number 13-32, which requires a 2/3 vote. Are there any objections? Okay, seeing as there are none, motion passes.
Thank you.
Representative Tyron, you're recognized.
I too, thank you, Mr. Speaker, first of all. And I too share the same concerns as Secretary Lorenzo had mentioned. And although I do appreciate the efforts of the main sponsor of this bill, I do see it as somewhat intersecting with that of the prior resolution which was introduced. And so because of that, I see the prior resolution as a better way to solve this problem. And with no bills being introduced to this committee, I think there's no purpose for the committee at all. And so I urge my colleagues to be in opposition of this as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Tyron. Representative Santos, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to thank Representative Kaneni for sponsoring this resolution. The previous resolution that he introduced in regards to media and community affairs and outreach, I had several apprehensions with, and I appreciate the fact that he took the time to understand my concerns and absolve them with this new committee that he wants to create in the effort of community service and outreach. I appreciate the amendments after talking with Representative Kennedy that no bill shall be referred to this committee, allowing it to not confuse itself with the other policy-oriented committees within the standing committees. And another thing that he had taken out from this resolution from the previous one is the oversight on press releases and social media of the Guam Youth Congress. Now, the matters relating to communications between the Guam Youth Congress that this committee has oversight of is only between various government officials and private entities to plan out events involving members of the Guam Youth Congress. So there's no room for a conflict of interest in that way. Furthermore, both of these resolutions are going to have both of these resolutions are going to have the issue of enforcement and commitment. We're going to have to mobilize our body to be committed to more community service either way. So with that being said, I do have apprehensions with the idea of there being too many cooks in the kitchen. You know, I'm not sure whether having several different co-chairs for several different events. Yes, I understand the merit of the educational component, and I think that all the Youth Congress members should be concerned on or should be educated on how to plan a committee event. But at the same time, I think that there needs to be a standard. There needs to be a standard of service and excellence that needs to happen across the board. And I think that if this committee is able to get it right, then I think that if this committee is able to provide a consistent standard in how the Youth Congress promotes itself abroad, within the community, whereas having several different committee members have different communication styles and different, I see more room for inconsistencies in that regard. But either way, I think that community service is important, and I just wanted my fellow representatives to look at the community service resolutions and to think about what works for you individually, honestly. At the same time, I also want to thank Representative Kaneni for his ability to compromise with this new resolution that, after expressing my concerns with the previous one. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
On the main motion, any other member who wishes to speak? Representative Garrido, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to pose a question to the sponsor of the bill, if he would yield.
Representative Kaneni, do you yield?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
You may continue, Representative Garrido.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So just suppose, hypothetically, that I have a particular community affairs project that I would like the Guam Youth Congress to partake in. And if I'm not a member of the Committee on Community Affairs and Outreach, what would be the process that I would have to take to ensure that this particular project is recognized or acknowledged by the committee?
Okay, that's an excellent point, actually. Well, one of the things one of the reasons why this committee was crafted this way, with no bills being referred and probably minimal to no resolutions, is because this is going to be completely focused on public work. And with that being said, the members of this committee, we're going to work towards organizing the event, but this is, I kind of wanted to treat the Committee on Community Affairs almost as a committee on whole. Like, we can all discuss it, we can all talk about it, but like, I guess the members of the committee are going to be primarily responsible, at least for organizing the event. If you do have an event that you want scheduled and worked on by the Guam Youth Congress, just like any other committee, you guys are welcome to come to the committee. You're welcome to give your opinion. You're welcome to give your ideas. You're welcome to give your thoughts. Even though you're not officially part of the committee, we still open all ideas, and we will welcome you to the meetings no matter what, even if you aren't officially a part of the committee. The same way the Committee on Rules welcomed me maybe a meeting or two ago when I wanted to give my views on the media relations resolution.
Does that answer your question, Representative Garrido?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you.
On the main motion, Any other member who wishes to speak? Seeing as there are none, Representative Kennedy, you're invited to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When this was written written a little bit prior to Vice Speaker Richards' resolution. However, this was crafted with most of the members of the Committee on Rules. I got most of the opinions on how to fix one of the aspects of the Youth Congress I wanted to fix for the longest time since the 30th Guam Youth Congress. And we finally came up with these rules and limitations to what this committee can do. And I believe no part of this committee should conflict with Vice Speaker Richards' resolution, which is, at the end of the day, to help perpetuate community service. You know, provide a central operation so that we can all go participate in community service rather like Speaker Santos said earlier, that at least provide, you know, a central place to get it organized rather than have 6 cooks in the kitchen trying to figure out how to organize an event. I'm not saying one person with the committee is going to be, you know, the absolute answer to all our ideas. It's not, you know, but I am saying that with this committee, at least we can give a concerted effort, a concerted central effort to try to push for community service, because that's something I still have not seen in my 2 non-consecutive terms of Guam Youth Congress. And with that, I would like to make a motion to place Resolution 13-32 to the 3rd reading file.
There's a motion to place resolution number 13-32 onto the 3rd reading file. Are there any objections? There's been an objection. All those in favor of sending this resolution down to the 3rd reading file, please raise your hand. High. Up. Motion passes. We've exhausted all items on our 2nd reading file. And at this time, we're in recess. We're back in session. Representative Labang, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, without standing House rules, I would like to bring back Resolution 14-32 to 2nd reading file.
There's been a motion, notwithstanding the House rules, to bring resolution number 14-32 from the 3rd reading file back to the 2nd reading file for discussion. Are there any objections? There's been an objection.
Can I state why we're...
Okay.
One member of the Democratic Caucus has an amendment to add on to just recognize one more organization.
Okay.
Hopefully that will ease the objection.
Representative Dahilig, do you still have an objection? Okay. No objections. So ordered. We're now on resolution number 14-32. Any member who wishes to speak? Representative Rosario, you're recognized.
I would like to just add on page 1, line 9, to say, authority of Guam Police, and to add Guam Customs and Quarantine Agency. Also on page 2, line 18, just to add the Guam Customs and Quarantine Agency, because I do believe that they protect the island as well as all the others. Yes, thanks.
On the Rosario Amendment, any member who wishes to speak? Representative Santos, you're recognized.
I'd like to ask a question to the sponsor of the amendment, if she would yield.
Yes. Do you yield? Okay, you may continue, Representative Santos.
Mr. Speaker, I was just, if the sponsor of the amendment could answer, does she know if the Guam Customs and Quarantine Agency usually partakes in the festivities of Police Week? Because I know that different service agencies have different events. Like I know that the fire week and Police Week are two different weeks, despite the fact that they both do help to protect the island. But if I'm just asking if the primary sponsor or the sponsor of the amendment has any information on that.
No, I just think that since, they protect the people and they do fight, crime, I think that they too should be recognized.
I think the premise of the question really is the Customs and Quarantine Agency officers, are they considered police officers in the name of the law? I think that's really the question.
Because the question kind of comes from, I don't know if the Customs and Quarantine Agency are comfortable with the classification. Like if the sponsor of the amendment and the sponsor of the resolution have no concerns with this, then I won't have any concerns either. But I just wanted to put it out for the body because I'm not sure if they consider themselves police or if they want to be involved in the festivities. But if the body has no problem with it, then I have no problem with it either. And it would be great if the sponsor, as well as the sponsor of the amendment, would have any other information. But if not, that's all I really have to say. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the sponsor of the amendment for answering the question.
Thank you, Representative Santos. One minute recess.
1 minute recess.
We're back in session, and we're back to you, Representative Rosario.
I would like to withdraw my amendment. Yeah.
Okay, amendment withdrawn. So ordered. Representative LeBang, you're recognized.
If there's non-amendment that's going to be added to the resolution, I move to place resolution 14-32 to third reading file.
There's been a motion to place resolution number 14-32 back to the third reading file. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. And now there's still...
Point of inquiry, Mr. Chair. At what part of the agenda do we entertain the tabled motion?
We can do that now.
Point of order, I think we should save that for a brief extension of remarks to discuss.
It was a point of order, and it needs to be ruled upon, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're doing that now. Okay, on the table was a point of order made by Representative LeBang with regards to remarks made by Representative Kineni. And he cited Rule 25, Section 25.03. No member of the Youth Congress shall, and then G, subsection G, not publicly attack any other member of the Guam Youth Congress. Such action shall constitute grounds for suspension or expulsion for conduct unbecoming a Youth Congress representative. And upon hearing all of the statements made earlier, and upon further reflection and pondering with regards to this matter, I, as your presiding officer for this session, hereby rule that Representative Kineni was not in violation of Section 25.03, subsection G. And if any member wishes to object to the ruling of the chair, he or she may do so, and we will vote upon it. Thank you. Now on we're still in motions. Representative Dahilig, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Notwithstanding House rules, I'd like to place resolution.
Point of order. Only the floor leaders can make the notwithstanding House rules.
Okay.
Can you make it for him?
Sure. I just need to know what motion to make.
Can I ask her?
Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding House rule again, I would like to place Resolution 19-32 to second reading file for further 18. 18? Are you sure it's 18? Which one? The arts? Okay. Correction. Resolution 18-32 to second reading file for further amendments.
There's been a motion, notwithstanding the House rules, to place resolution number 18-32 back to the second reading file for discussion. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Representative Dahilig, you're recognized. Or who? Representative Agan, you're recognized. Somebody from Ukadu.
Thank you. First, I would like to apologize as this is late, but as a representative of Ukadu High School, I just wanted to ensure that our band program, who had won multiple gold awards at TBMF, will be also recognized as well. So, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
On that amendment, on the Agan amendment, any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Representative LeBang, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to place Resolution 19-32 back to third reading file. 18-32 for third reading file.
On that motion, are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. We're now on second roll call. Mr. Secretary, Representative LeBang, you're recognized. Once more.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to reflect first roll call in the second roll call.
So there's been a motion that the second roll call reflect the first roll call. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, there's been a motion to have second roll call reflect first roll call. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. We're now on the third reading. Representative LeBang, you're recognized.
I would also like to excuse members not present today.
There's been a motion to excuse members not present today. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. We're now on the consideration of the daily file, on the third reading file. We'll start with resolution number 14-32. Mr. Secretary, roll call, please. Here's what I'm proposing to the body. Since resolutions number 14, 15, 16, and 18, and 19 are commendatory in nature, we'll vote on them by hand. Does anyone oppose
Mr.
that?
Speaker, I have one more motion.
Please state your motion.
I make a motion to waive engrossment of all the resolution discussed today.
There's been a motion to waive engrossment before we vote. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Okay. Everyone okay with voting by hand on those particular resolutions? Okay. We will start with resolution number 14-32. Mr. Secretary, please read the title.
Resolution number 14-32, introduced by Secretary Lorenzo, Representative Javen Santos, Speaker Christian Valencia, and Representative Al Bang, relative to recognizing, commending, and honoring the courageous women and men of the Guam Police Department, the Jose D. Leon Guerrero Commercial Port Authority Police, the Antonio B. Juan Pat International Airport Authority Police, and to extend a warm undunklina to Diyos Maasi for all their hardworking efforts to safeguard our island and to further recognize the week of May 12th to May 18th, 2019 as Guam Police Week.
All those in favor of resolution number 14-32, please raise your hand. Resolution number 14, thank you. Resolution number 14-32 hereby passes. Moving on to resolution number 15-32. Mr. Secretary, please read the title.
Resolution number 15-32, introduced by Representative Al Bang, Secretary Stephanie Lorenzo, Representative Lauren Dinsman, Representative Joel Miige, Representative Janae Pareda, Representative Byron Blas, and Representative Elijah Santos, relative to commending and recognizing youth nonprofit organizations that promote the youth development and service in the island.
All those in favor of resolution number 15-32, please raise your hand. Thank you. Resolution number 15-32 hereby passes. Moving on to resolution number 16-32. Mr. Secretary, please read the title.
Resolution number 16-32, introduced by Representative Al Bang, Representative Miige, Representative Stephanie Lorenzo, Representative Noel DeGracia, and Representative Isabel Valencia, relative to commending and recognizing sports organizations on island that promote youth sports to the youth.
All those in favor of resolution number 16-32, please raise your hand. Thank you. Resolution number 16-32 hereby passes. Moving on to resolution number 18-32. Mr. Secretary, please read the title.
Resolution number 18-32, as amended on the floor and introduced by Representative Al Bang, Speaker Christian Valencia, Representative Jacob Richards, Representative Kyla Trinidad, Representative Travis Blas, Representative Davin Felicen, Representative Valina Matanani, and Representative Vicente Tyron, relative to commending and recognizing organizations that promote arts to the youth of Guam.
All those in favor of resolution number 18-32, please raise your hand. Thank you. Resolution number 18-32 as amended is hereby passes. Moving on to resolution number 19-32. Mr. Secretary, please read the title.
Resolution number 19-32, introduced by Representative Kyle DeHelig, relative to recognizing and honoring Greta Thunberg and School Strike for Climate Change movement.
All those in favor of resolution number 19-32, please raise your hand. Thank you. Resolution number 19-32 hereby passes. Now moving on to resolution number 13-32. Mr. Secretary, please read the title.
Resolution number 13-32, as introduced by Representative DeMarco Caneni, Representative Maria DeLohan, Representative Valina Matanani, Representative Trenton Quintanilla, and Representative Javen Santos, relative to amending adding section 16.11 of the standing rules of the 32nd Guam Youth Congress, establishing a new standing committee, the Committee on Community Affairs and Outreach.
Roll call, please.
Representative Cabrini Uggan. Representative Cabrini Uggan pass. Representative Byron Blas. Representative Byron Blas pass. Representative Kyle DeHelig. Representative Kyle DeHelig nay. Representative Joshua DeChoso. Representative Joshua DeChoso pass. Representative Lauren Dinsman. Representative Lauren Dinsman pass. Representative Perry Garrido. Representative Perry Garrido nay. Representative Al Labang. Representative Al Labang nay. Secretary Stephanie Lorenzo. Secretary Stephanie Lorenzo nay. Representative Joel Miige. Representative Joel Miige nay. Representative Valina Matanani. Representative Valina Matanani, aye. Representative DeMarco Caneni. Representative DeMarco Caneni, aye. Vice Speaker Jacob Richards. Vice Speaker Jacob Richards, pass. Representative Quintanilla. Representative Quintanilla, aye. Representative Rosario. Representative Casey Rosario, nay. Representative Elijah Santos. Representative Elijah Santos, nay. Representative Javen Santos. Representative Javen Santos, aye. Representative Vicente Tyron. Representative Tyron, nay. Representative Kyla Trinidad. Representative Kyla Trinidad, nay. Speaker Christian Valencia.
Nay.
Speaker Christian Valencia, nay. Representative Cabrini Uggan. Representative Cabrini Uggan, nay. Representative Byron Blas. Representative Byron Blas, aye. Representative Joshua DeChoso. Representative Joshua DeChoso, nay. Representative Lauren Dinsman. Representative Lauren Dinsman, pass. Vice Speaker Jacob Richards. Vice Speaker Jacob Richards, nay. Representative Lauren Dinsman. Representative Lauren Dinsman, nay.
Resolution number 13-32 received 5 ayes, 14 nays, and 10 excused absences. Resolution number 13-32 hereby fails. Moving on to resolution number 17-32. Mr. Secretary, please read the title.
Resolution number 17-32, introduced by Resolution number 17-32, amended on the floor, introduced by Vice Speaker Richards, Secretary Stephanie Lorenzo, Representative Al Labang, Representative Pergarito, and Representative Kyle DeHelig, relative to adding a new Rule 29 and amending subsection A of Section 15.03 Iminatran dos na Kongreso Manhobang Guahan Otdin Aclaramentu 32nd Guam Youth Congress Standing Rules, establishing a requirement for youth Congress representatives to take part in community service.
Roll call, please.
Representative Cabrini Uggan. Representative Cabrini Uggan, aye. Representative Byron Blas. Representative Byron Blas, aye. Representative Kyle DeHelig. Representative Kyle DeHelig, aye. Representative Joshua DeChoso. Representative Joshua DeChoso, aye. Representative Lauren Dinsman. Representative Lauren Dinsman, aye. Representative Perry Garrido. Representative Perry-Garrido, aye. Representative Alabang. Representative Alabang, aye. Secretary Stephanie Lorenzo. Secretary Stephanie Lorenzo, aye. Representative Joel Maige. Representative Joel Maige, aye. Representative Valina Matanani. Representative Valina Matanani, aye. Representative DeMarco Kineni. Representative DeMarco Kineni, pass. Representative Tristan Quintanilla. Representative Tristan Quintanilla, pass. Vice Speaker Jacob Richards. Vice Speaker Jacob Richards, aye. Representative Casey Rosario. Representative Casey Rosario, aye. Representative Elijah Santos. Representative Elijah Santos, aye. Representative Javen Santos. Representative Javen Santos, aye. Representative Vicente Tyron. Representative Vicente Tyron, aye. Representative Kyla Trinidad. Representative Kyla Trinidad, aye. Speaker Valencia. Speaker Valencia, aye. Representative Kineni. Representative Kineni, aye. Representative Kristen Quintanilla. Representative Kristen Quintanilla, aye.
Resolution number 17-32 received unanimous support from the body and hereby passes. Moving on to brief extension of remarks. Any member who wishes to be recognized? Representative Labang, you're recognized.
I just want to set things clear up. I just felt that Representative Kanani violated it. That's why I brought up to the attention of the speaker. But I just want to set things up that it might be, because like the thing is that I'm not the one to judge, or like since I'm not the presiding officer, I'm not the one to make the ruling. So, but I just brought that up to the attention of the body. I'm gonna apologize to Representative Kanani if he felt that I'm doing some kind of politics in here or something. I apologize to that end. And I just want to bring up the attention of everyone that with the passing of the resolution last session that the Democratic Caucus had held its election for its leadership. And I just want to point out for the record that I was elected to be the majority leader. And Representative Javen Santos is the assistant majority leader, and Representative Vicente Blas-Siren being the majority whip, and Representative Chelsea Roque not being here as the assistant majority whip. And I just want to also extend gratitude to everyone for passing all the resolutions I have today to commend the youth organizations, especially its Youth Month. And I also want to point out that it's also Representative Choso's
Okay,
last
we'll
day
let
of
him make that
session.
announcement. We'll let him make that announcement.
I'm so sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Representative Labang. Representative DeChoso, at this time, I would like to recognize you to provide some, yeah. So usually the tradition is if, well, I can't say it now without blowing your cover, but the usual tradition is if you're leaving the Youth Congress, you provide a brief extension of remarks, you know. Just talk about your career in the GYC, yes. Yeah, but before you do that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Speaker, thank you. And hello, everybody. It is true. Today is my last session in Guam Youth Congress. I wish I prepared something. Oh, wait, I did. This morning. Well, first off, I just want to thank everybody that I had the pleasure and privilege of serving with since 31st. That was last, right? That's what it's called. Yeah, since last term.
Yes, 31 comes before 32.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. A lot of pressure right now. I want to thank everybody that I serve with. First of all, for welcoming me and Representative Felicen, who is not here right now, and through this experience, helping me grow and exposing me to new ideas. This has been something that I've said this before, and it's GYC, Guam Youth Congress, was an experience that was perfect for someone like me who enjoyed talking a lot, somebody who, according to my mom, talked too much. And so Guam Youth Congress was sort of a change of pace for me because it taught me that I had to listen. And I learned that one of the most important lessons that I learned, and I hope that everybody can take away from being in this room, is that the moment you step into this room, you are not the smartest person here. That's a lesson that I had to learn in hearing the ideas and the beliefs that other people had and being exposed to that. That was something that I learned from this experience. It was always good to hear other perspectives that were different from mine. So I want to, first of all, extend my thank you to those I served with last term, and that includes everybody who was not in this room. And I'm not going to name people because I'm going to forget someone, and I don't want anyone to feel left out. But I also want to extend a thank you to those who just joined us this term for the 32nd Guam Youth Congress. I'm very sorry that I didn't get a chance to serve a full term with everybody. But if I could share a few words, it's that you should definitely stick with it. It's good to see young people, and I say that as though I am not a young person, but it's good to see young people who are so energetic and as interested in politics as much as I am. And it does give me a lot of hope for the future, for our island and for the country at large. One last thing I would like to share is never be afraid to speak your mind. And this goes out to everybody, mostly to those who are just joining us this term. But always go into every discussion, debate, every conversation with the mindset that the other person you are discussing or debating with knows something that you don't. Because when you go in with that mindset, you are going to learn something, and it's a lot more fruitful for our society if our leaders, including us as youth leaders, if we went into every debate not with the goal to torpedo the other person's bill or resolution or idea, but if we went in with the mindset that we want to make this better, or we can come up with other solutions together. And so always stand up for what you believe in, even if you're the only person voting in favor of your position. And with that, I would like to end with a quote as suggested by Representative LeBang. Thank you. I would like to end with a quote, probably my favorite quote, and I always reference this. Reach for the stars. If you don't grab any, at least you'll land on top of the world. Pitbull, 2011. Thank you.
Representative DeChoso, just like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to you for giving us the opportunity to serve alongside you here in the Guam Youth Congress. And on behalf of the Guam Youth Congress, I'd just like to stand up. Any other brief extension of remarks? Representative Vice Speaker Richards, you're recognized. What was that?
Nothing, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. I would also like to express my sorrow that Representative DeChosa will be leaving us. It's truly been an honor to serve alongside you in the Guam Youth Congress. I'd like to thank the body for unanimously passing Resolution 17, and like Representative Kennedy said, we need to follow through with it and not let it die down. I'd also like to remind the body that we are here as public servants, and in that capacity, we can't be sensitive. If this is something that you want to do in the future, people are going to call you names, and you can't let that deter you if you truly believe that your actions and your words stand for themselves. So you should let them do that. That being said, I don't think that Representative Kennedy was attacking the leadership. I think he was being critical, which is his right as a representative of the body to call the actions of the leadership to attention. And if he was correct, then it would reflect in the body. I would also like to say that just because the body does not agree with your actions, that you should not be so quick to apologize. If you meant to do and say what you did, then you should follow through with that as well. And I will say one more thing, just because of something that I heard in one of our Committee on Rules meetings last month. Something was said, and I'm not going to repeat it, but I will say that the only thing worse than a lack of power is the lust for power, and to bide your time, build your rapport, and let your actions and your words speak for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Speaker Richards. Does anybody else have a brief extension of remarks before we move on to announcements? Yes, Representative Javen Santos, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That chair is, it seems like an appropriate place for you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say that it's been, just commend you, Mr. Chair, on the work that you put into this. I always appreciated having your perspective because you're very quick to just be willing to be able to talk about issues and talk about what you believe in. And I appreciate your ability to compromise, which was paramount in being able to pass the bill that you worked so hard on to be a primary sponsor of. And I just want to let you know that as Committee on Rules Chairman and as members of the body, I apologize that you won't be here to see the fruits of your labor, but we'll be sure to push forward on that issue on your behalf so that whatever you're doing afterwards, you can see that your impact on Guam already made a difference. So thanks for your commitment to Youth Congress.
Thank you, Representative Santos. Representative DeHelig, you are recognized. Sorry, he raised his hand first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As one of the Ukudu representatives for Guam Youth Congress, and as one of the successors to you when you were an Ukudu representative, I would like to extend our greatest gratitude for you being here and being one of the role models in mentoring me in third period. In addition to that, I look forward to what you can, all the future endeavors you have for life. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative DeHelig. Would anybody else like to share nice words about me? Oh. Representative Lorenzo, you are recognized. Before you do, I would like to say how convenient it is that there is a box of tissues back here. Very convenient for me. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And like our colleagues have said, I've known you before the 31st, and I wanted to say that in your terms here, you have definitely grown. You're so much more confident. And like Representative DeHelic has said, we wish you the very best on your next journey. If you ever need something on Guam Youth Congress side, you could call any one of us. But thank you so much for taking the initiative to lead Ukudu and then your village now, and we wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lorenzo. Are there any other brief extension of remarks? Mr. Chair or Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not allowed to say this, but I have favorites. And
we couldn't tell.
And you were one of them. I'm kidding. But yes, it's been an honor working alongside you here in the Guam Youth Congress. I've always considered you as, I don't know, my anchor, pretty much. Besides Vice Speaker Richards, of course. Yeah, you got it. I always looked forward to the times when you would speak, really. There were times when I was very conflicted with an issue, and when you spoke, I was convinced. So you have a certain skill, Mr. Chair, that I believe that many of us here can learn from, especially me. And I would like to reiterate the sentiments of the Vice Speaker when he said that when he expressed his sorrow. Oh, he's in a little box. When he expresses sorrow as to you leaving the Guam Youth Congress, you've been a great addition to the body, and serving alongside you in the last term and this term as well. I remember when you first got inaugurated with Representative Felice, and you were both really just excited to be there, and I remember those days like it was 19 forgotten. But I just want to extend a really heartfelt gratitude for your service here, and for giving us the opportunity to work alongside you, especially in drafting the bill to prevent gun violence, the Gun Violence Prevention Order Act of 2019. I really want to commend you on that, and allowing me the opportunity to work with you on that bill. And we'd just like to really thank you, and wish you good luck in your future endeavors, Mr. Chair. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I get that in writing, please? Wow. If I knew I was going to be on camera that long, I would have worn something better. Any other brief extension of remarks before we? Okay. Representative LeBang, you are recognized. I would like to say that I'm still going to be around. But thank you. Go ahead.
So it's funny because Representative Lorenzo and I were actually planning to buy you a lei, but it ended up Speaker Christian Santos buying it, and he asked me to order it, and yeah, it's a long story, but I want to
Point of order, Mr. Chair. My name is Christian Valencia and not Christian Santos.
Sorry, Speaker Christian Valencia. Sorry. There's something wrong with me today. I keep mixing up bill resolution numbers. I'm sad that you're leaving, Mr. Chair. We're losing one great talent like you had. Whatever you want to achieve out there, I hope that you still make Guam in your heart and still pursue to come back here and to contribute to our island success. I would say it's been nice working with you, and I know when every time I have a bill, you you have the other information to the puzzle that I have that I might not able to search up or research about. So thank you for that. You'll be greatly missed in this session hall, especially by your Guam Youth Congress colleagues. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative LeBang. If you want, you could always rename the session hall to Representative Joshua DeChoso Legislative Session Hall. You could just say it was a mistake. Thank you. Are there any other brief? Representative Tristan, you are recognized.
Mr. Chairman, prior to meeting anyone else in this room, I met you and when I ran for the position of representative of Ukdu High School back in the 30th Guam Youth Congress. And when I saw you again in 31st Guam Youth Congress, fulfilling my seat, I realized that you were dedicated and that you really wanted to be here. I want you to know that I recognize your dedication. Thank you.
And thank you for paving the way for me. I want to just say, I've learned way more from everybody in this room, far more than I could ever, whatever lessons I could give you guys. So thank each and every single one of you. Any other brief extension remarks before we move on to announcements? Announcements. Yes, Mr. Speaker, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to announce the 9th Annual Island-Wide Youth Fest, #ManhobenStrong, will be held on Saturday, April 27th at the Festival Village Huts in Chamorro Village from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is hosted by Sanctuary Incorporated of Guam, and I invite everyone here in this room as youth leaders to go ahead and check it out. They worked really hard organizing this. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative DeHelig, you are recognized.
First of all, happy Earth Month, everybody. It's also Island Sustainability Month, which was designated by Imagahagan Guahan. And early Happy Easter. So with that, I'd like to invite the body and the rest of Guam to the Guam March to Protect Mother Earth later today at 3:30 in Paseo, Agano. We'll be marching, calling for action against anthropogenic climate change and real action. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative DeHelig. Representative Tyron, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to say that the St. John's Spring production called The Auditions will be taking place May 10th and 11th at the Tumon Sands Plaza. Tickets are available at St. John's School. You can call 646-8080 for more information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Tyron. Are there any announcements? Any other announcements? Representative Bloss, you are recognized. This is getting easier, by the way.
Thank you, Mr. Chair / Acting Speaker. I have several announcements, so please bear with me. As we can tell in this particular session today, that there is a Democratic presence here, the caucus, and there is a lacking presence of a Republican caucus. I apologize on behalf of myself and the other members who identify as Republicans, but I'd like to announce to the body, if you haven't affiliated yourselves politically with the Democrats, please come and join us, because we are still yet to set up. So, of course, we have positions to fill, such as the minority leader and minority whip, and their respective assistants. So please, after today's session, just a quick 10-minute meeting to hash out leader details. Besides that, during our spring break, April 26th, 27th, and 28th, our annual spring production in partnership with GATE, we have Mamma Mia coming up. So if you would like to come down to FD's Phoenix Center and watch the show, please feel free to do so. We're selling tickets at our school's business office as well as the other Tango theaters that we have here. And besides that, of course, by August, I myself will be leaving our body. Yeah, I'll be up there with, yeah, soon. very soon. But with that in mind, May 8th is Father Duenis' graduation. So if you'd like to come along, please feel free to do so. To celebrate the 87 brothers, or rather my 87 brothers, walk up on that stage and leave our school, class 2019. What about it? Yeah, I already did. So doors will be opening up at 6 at our, rather not 6, 4 o'clock at our Phoenix Center. It'll be very crowded and very rowdy, or rather will be very rowdy up there. So please feel free to come along and watch me walk up on that stage. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair and Mr. Acting Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Bloss. Republicans, please get moving. If not, I will personally fly back here and see what's up. No, that's a joke. Very pricey. So, Representative Santos, you are recognized.
If there's no other announcements, Mr. Chair, I would like to.
Actually, I saw a hand. Representative LeBang, did you have an announcement?
The 57th Student Government Association of UOG is inviting the body for Tritons Out Loud. It's a first event that UOG is sponsoring to spread diversity within the community. It will be held on Friday, April 26, 2019 from 6 to 10 at the UOG Calvo Fieldhouse. If there's no more announcement, I would...
Thank you, Representative LeBang. Representative Richards, you are recognized. Or Vice Speaker Richards.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's getting to my head already, sitting here, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's the effect, right?
Yeah. Right, go ahead.
I just want to announce that the Ladditones concert will be on May 10th and 11th. I know that's a little ways away, but it will happen before our next session. So I'm just letting everybody know. And that'll be at 7 p.m. at the UOG Theater. And you can see me in a couple weeks for tickets. More importantly, tonight is the La Voce concert from Simon Sanchez. There will be 2 showings, 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. at the Lotte Hotel. And if you manage to get a hold of somebody before the concert, you can get your ticket for $5. But if you pay at the door, it'll be $10. I'd also like to announce that whatever Josh DeChoso is going to do in his future, Representative
or Mr. Chair,
or Mr. Chair,
whatever works for you.
Whatever else everybody says. He's going to do very well, I think. So everybody should keep an eye out for that. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Give me some time. Thank you, Vice Speaker Richards. Representative LeBang, you are now recognized.
If there's no more announcements, I would like to adjourn this session of the Guam Youth Congress subject to the call of the Speaker.
There has been a motion to adjourn. Are there any objections? Seeing as there are none, this session is adjourned.